Well, over here you have anesthesiology. And over here you have design. So how does somebody go from over there to over here? Well, our next speaker, next presenter, is exactly that. She walked in this morning and she said, I wrote this down because I just thought it was amazing. Cusp is like the human school. I'm never going to forget that. So I stole it. I told her I'm stealing that right away. But I want to read this. Dr. Shakeela Hassan's resume states her mission is to promote peaceful coexistence and understanding among different faith communities. This woman is fabulous. I welcome Dr. Hassan.
I am speechless. That is very rare. So I think that speaks mounts about my appreciation and gratitude to Cusp, opening my eyes, opening my mind, and making me think. And these are the gifts that we all need to nurture. I have titled my presentation today, Sounds of Faith, Discovering Divine Design and Purpose in the Sonic Dimensions of Existence. Let me read to you a verse from the Quran. Glorify the name of your sustainer, the All-Highest, who creates all that exists, then forms it in its best mold, determines its nature with a proper measure, and guides it towards its fulfillment. This verse speaks to us about the divine origin of all that exists. It also speaks about the perfection of design inherent in all things and the potential perfection of purpose in all of God's designs. Through the lens of my own life, I have come to see that the perfection of God's limitless designs, while often striking in their simplicity, is deeply rooted in their multidimensionality. This is especially true for living things and even more so for human beings. I firmly believe that as human beings, the purpose of our design is found in the complex diversity of our relationships. I stand before you today as a woman. When I refer to myself in this way, I'm saying something about my physiology, but I'm not saying much about my purpose, and thus of the power and beauty of God's design. In order to say something about the power and beauty of the design we know as woman, I must say something about the profound relationality of my womanhood. As a woman, I have been and blessed to be a daughter, sister, wife, mother, and a proud grandmother. These interconnected relational roles lie at the heart of my identity as a woman because they speak of the bonds, responsibility, care, and love that give my life purpose by connecting me to the persons whose existence most intensely has shaped and continues to shape my own. I also stand before you as someone who is blessed to be a friend, colleague, and neighbor to many. In each of these roles, my identity as a physician, an academic, and most recently as a documentary film producer have been central. Ultimately, I am also a Muslim. For me, this is not a political, social, or cultural denominator which binds me to some and severs me from others. On the contrary, it is an existential fact which challenges me to discern and inhabit relationships of integrity with every constituent element of the created order. As a Muslim, I'm first and foremost one who strives to submit her life to God, the one who is a designer, creator, and sustainer of all that is. Simple logic dictates that I cannot pretend to submit to the designer without striving to find beauty and purpose in all things, and without striving to link the beauty and purpose of their design with that of my own. This is by no means an easy task. Indeed, it is a lifelong struggle, what the Quran refers to as jihad. Nonetheless, it has been made a bit easier for me. You wonder how? Being a woman, and especially a mother. As mothers, those of us who have spent more or less 9 months at a time when children growing within us have had the indescribable privilege of participating in a very intimate way in the purpose of divine creation. Indeed, the process of human gestation, which results in a new manifestation of the creature, which the Quran teaches us is God's most prized, takes place in and through the human womb. It is no coincidence that the Arabic word for womb, rahm, comes from the same root and is thus etymologically very closely related to the two most beautiful names of God or his attributes, which define God above and beyond all the other 97. Ar-Rahman, which refers to God as the ultimate source of all compassion, love, and grace, and Ar-Rahim, which refers to God as the one who dispenses the endless bounty of divine compassion, love, and grace on each and every one of God's creatures. From the tiniest atom or cell to the largest galaxy, from the smallest microbe to the largest fungal organism. This is a beautiful diagram of a cell, almost complete in its own way, as if it's a self-sufficient factory or unit. These things have been very awakening experience to me. Hubble telescope has brought the world closer to us, and we can examine it so closely. I can go on and on with it because I was so intrigued and excited and inspired by God's design and beauty. One very well-known Quranic verse teaches us that each and every human being, as a product of the womb, Rahm, is equally a product of God's compassion, love, and grace, Rahmah, his mercy. In this way, we are still all the same. We share a common and inviolable dignity as human persons, a dignity which must always be upheld through the acts of compassion. This same verse, however, also teaches us that this dignity as God's creatures is reflected in the stunning diversity and complexity of our existence as individuated, acculturated, and socialized beings, all striving to find our source in and through our relationships with one another. Without human relationships, there is no peace. In this context, compassion becomes the very medium in which this striving to know and understand one another takes place. I have another Quranic verse to share with you. O humanity, behold, we have created you all from a male and a female, and have made you into tribes and nations, so that you might come to recognize one another as interdependent and equal. Verily, the noblest of you before God is one who is most conscious of God. God is all-knowing, all-aware. The message here is not only that God judges us according to our God consciousness, but that our God consciousness is a direct function of coming to know and understand one another. Please allow me to share one reflection that I especially wish to share with you today, is that we all begin our unique journeys of coming to know others, and through others, God in our common intrauterine experience of sound, rhythm, and movement. but I find, which I most emphatically, and I'm convinced, to identify as three of the fundamental building blocks of communication. I repeat, sound, rhythm, and movement. It is in the fetal experience, at the very brink of the long and unending process of individuation, that human experience is at its most universal, as the fetus first awakens to the sound, rhythm, and movement of its environment, which is made up of little more than its own and its mother's bodies. The sonic environment of the womb is rich. There is the sound of maternal and fetal heartbeats. There goes the placental circulation, the sound of the fetus's own swimming in the amniotic sac, and finally, the sound of mother's breathing and voice. It is this last set of sounds and vibrations that come from a world which, for its entire existence, is completely alien to the child in the womb. Its mother's breath and voice are produced by vibrations and moving in and out primarily of the air, unlike the fluid environment which the infant has grown to full maturity. Is it a coincidence that our first experience of coming to know our mother, it rhymes, is so much like how we conceive of coming to know God, who dwells in a realm beyond the one we currently inhabit, but for which we seem to be destined? Is it a coincidence that we claim to have heard the voice of God enveloping us like the voice of the mother that envelops the fetus, coming from a realm beyond our own comprehension, but being the very ground of our existence? Think of what we are missing as inhabitants of this womb of earthly existence if we lose sight of the miraculous nature of sound, rhythm, and movement. Think of what we lose if we allow ourselves to forget the degree to which sound, rhythm, and movement continue to play a key role in mediating the presence of the divine in our lives, and thus our inherent dignity and our ultimate destiny, as they did when we were in the womb. Is it any wonder why we can find ourselves so often transported and transformed by music? Isn't music and dance, our way of speaking back to and reconnecting with the universe and its designer and creator, which constantly seek communion with us through sound, rhythm, and movement? What I would like for us to do in the time remaining is three things. First, I would ask us to be quiet, control our sounds, rhythms, and movements, not that you're not, and hear this magnificent as we listen to the sounds of this environment, can we hear the sounds of the Creator constantly at work, nurturing and sustaining our lives? Can we hear, in a sense, the voice of God? Now let's see what happens. Louder. What would a mother say? Give the pacifier or hold the baby. Okay. Second, I would ask us then to move with our imaginations outside the womb into the beauty of the natural world and attend to its sounds, allowing them to work on our consciousness on levels far deeper than that of thoughts and words. In order to be inclusive, I put several birds together. I was fascinated with this group of birds traveling north, south, or wherever they were going, and the shapes they created in their movement. So sound, rhythm, and movement defines bird, have inspired us to make airplanes, to fly, to do all that we do. This is a photograph of Nevada Falls. This is the water symphony. It always touches my heart and inspires me to know where did I hear this sound. A thunderstorm. The lightning strikes, creates patterns as if they are branches, and as a tree, all the branches come down to the ground. This is our Lake Michigan, and it's part of the documentary filming we did, and I couldn't help but include that from our footage. And I thought, A Glorious Sunrise in Chicago is an appropriate title. And from the rising sun unto the going down of the same, the Lord's name is to be praised. I love the quotation that I have selected, and the music is Sufi music of Turkish ney, and the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. It gives a meaning and purpose to sunrise, sunset, why we should look forward to these. Not that we have a choice, God has designed them, but how do we make use of these inspirations to help us, guide us, understand the design and purpose in our lives? And it's not that one faith teaches you or one group practices it. I was very happy to find this Mahatma Gandhi's quote, and this picture was just absolutely in my mind all the time as I was preparing the slide presentation. When I admire the wonder of a sunset or the beauty of the moon, my soul expands in the worship of the Creator. Now, finally, I would ask us to listen to some sounds we produce as human beings and which we identify as sacred, because that seems to inspire us to connect with our God, worship God, or praise God. And I want to share, are they on some deep level our responses to the divine symphony of the universe? Are they an indispensable way in which we connect with God and one another within our various faith traditions? And even more to the point, in our globalizing world, can we appreciate the beauty of a sacred sound and therefore of other faiths, even though these sounds may not originate from our own religious tradition? Can the sacred sounds of other human beings worshiping in faith traditions other than our own be a means through which we come to know God, our neighbors, and ourselves more deeply? Maimonides said, "Awake, awake, O sleepers, from your sleep. Slumberers, arouse thee, ye, from your slumbers, and examine your deeds, return in repentance, and remember your Creator." This is our magnificent Rockefeller Chapel at the University of Chicago. And enjoy the music. This is a magnificent mosque in Indonesia. And as you can see, the call to prayer, which brings the faithful to come and pray. An Islamic tradition, it happens 5 times a day. And church bells invite congregants to come and gather, whether it is at a Sunday or any special day. And so does the shofar. So the idea of these calls to prayer are to invite congregants to come together Each human being can pray alone in their own space, and your heart is your sacred space where you most meaningfully can pray. But being with the other makes it more significant. My current documentary film project, Sounds of Faith, is devoted precisely to the exploration of sound as a medium for encountering God and for greater interfaith understanding. I would be happy to interact and answer questions. And let me share I thought it's my turn to tell a joke too. When I just came across one, like God's design. There is a friend of mine, a grandpa, and he told me that his little first grandchild, 4-year-old, he was trying to read her to educate her. All he couldn't do in his life, he wanted her to be very astute, understanding, getting everything, knowing from the cartoons to the jokes to the all real facts of life and making their lists and so on. So the kid was sitting in his lap and fidgeting. So he said, Olive, stop it, listen to me. And he said, no, Grandpa, you got to tell me who made you. Because she was fidgeting and doing this to his cheeks. And he said, God. So she said, oh. And they went on. And Grandpa thinks she's listening to his stories. But no, he fidgeted again. And he said, come on, Olive, you got to stop it and listen to me. And he said, I have one more question. And so Grandpa said, what is it, Olive? So she said to him, who made me? So the grandpa said, God. So he said, she busted out, jumped out of there and said, he is definitely getting better. So thank you. And, and, and this profound statement for my second life's work comes from saying that I want to share with you. I will close with the words of Jimi Hendrix, the great rock guitarist and master of the potency of sound as a means for bringing people together and transforming the world. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. Thank you, and may God bless you and grant you peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Shakeela.